Greetings, programs, and welcome back to the Awesome Friday podcast, the only podcast on the whole internet where you can hear two middle-aged bearded white guys talk about two movies in great detail.
Yeah,
This week we're talking about two new-ish movies. We're going to talk about I.s.s. and then France's Academy Award forwarded film, because they didn't get the nomination, but The Taste of Things. My name is Matthew, and I'm your host, and this is a far more detailed intro than I usually do, and that is a bad segue into introducing Simon, my co-host. How are you, Simon?
Hello, my name's Simon, and I'm the co-host today. Thank you for joining us on this awesome Friday.
We script this very carefully. Very
well. Everything you hear is scripted, every single word. I'm fine. I'm doing okay. Work is finished. As I've said in our bonus round, we've got 3 days off, and I am trying not to buy any more games so I can play through the games I have bought. That's a very boring answer, I understand. What are you playing at the moment?
This episode will be coming out on Sunday, the 18th of February, which means for most of our Canadian listeners, that means either Happy Family Day or in some cases Heritage Day or Islanders Day. And in the States, Happy President's Day. And we're talking about a movie that's as far away from the States as you can get in both cases. Yes. I recently acquired a PlayStation 5, and I have been playing through Spider-Man 2, finally. I say finally, it's been out for like 3 months. Like, that's how long. Probably a little longer than that, but came out for Christmas. It's only February, and I finally have one. And turns out that Insomniac makes amazing games. Spider-Man 1 was probably my all-time favorite PS4 game. And Spider-Man 2, despite being the first game I played on PS5, may well end up being my favorite game on that platform too.
Does it feel different, or does it feel more of the same but in a good way?
No, it's a wonderful iteration on everything that made the first one good. It's even down to the fact that like the first game takes place in Manhattan, and the second game takes place in Manhattan and Queens. And the Manhattan part of the map is the same. They've clearly just taken the same map and just expanded it for the second game. So there's like landmarks I recognized from the first game in the second game, including in like the Oscorp Tower, which is where the finale of the first game happens, is the same as it was at the end of the first game. It's all very well laid out, and the sort of character through lines for Peter and also Miles Morales are great. Like it's clearly a continuing story for both of them, being technically the third game in the series. And I think the thing that really makes it for me would be sort of two things. One, it's not just a fun game; it's a really good Spider-Man story, and they're not afraid to like take the characters you love and remix them a little bit, and like just do their own thing. But also, it never loses sight of the fact that Spider-Man is a friendly neighborhood Spider-Man. So there's missions where you're fighting big bad guys with city-ending stakes, and there's also missions where you sit with an old man and he tells you a story about how he proposed to his wife while his granddaughter finds you. And there's another one where you like go and investigate the animals that are scratching at an old lady's back porch, and like there's all kinds of like little, just totally low stakes, wonderful moments. There's one that legitimately made me cry that I don't want to spoil if you're actually going to play it. But there's a mission in this game that made me cry. It's wonderful. It's wonderful that they've managed to elicit that. I mean, it has some of the open world problems that all open world games have, and that like there is a lot of like repetitive go here, do that type stuff. But there's only one in this game there's only every sort of district of the city has a series of like missions that are all the same type. So, and there's only one of those types that I turned out so far to have absolutely detested, which is honestly pretty good for an open world game for me. I often hate those kinds of missions. So it's a good game. Turns out it's a good game. And what I found really interesting is that the PS5 is like, obviously it's 4K video output. But the thing that really surprised me was just that everything is smoother. Not that it's better looking. I mean, it is, but it's more that just like all of the animation, all of the transitions from one scripted thing to another in game, it all feels a lot more fluid, and that's pretty incredible.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyway, I could talk about this game for an hour, so we should probably stop. And I've not even done it yet. I think I'm like 50% of the way through. I have done like almost all the side stuff already, so now I'm just working on the actual story, and it's great. I can't speak highly enough about it. The Spider-Man games for PlayStation are fantastic, and yeah, that's my
Yeah,
official review.
I should get back into it. I've played the first mission. That was pretty impressive.
Yeah, the first one is good. There's much better ones that follow,
Yeah.
and the storyline stuff is great,
I really
like
like watching my
legitimately great.
son. I like watching my son play it because he's younger and he can remember all the different moves and combinations. And watching him play is like watching a movie. It's
Yeah,
incredible. And I'm quite a fragmented player as I try to remember and mash buttons and things. And as you know, I've never really got on with the fight system in those games. But he is just like fluid. He never even touches the ground between all these different things, and it's incredible to watch.
yeah. I mean, for those of you who are in the know, like if you and it's amazing to me because I know you like the Arkham games, but the combat in the Spider-Man games is like a faster, more fluid version of the combat from the Arkham games, and I think in the best way possible. It's a lot. It's a The combat in the Arkham games is very like brutal and punchy, and like you're clearly trying to like break people's bones and such. But this one is much more like bouncing off things to hit people and like toss webs, and it's a lot more fluid and freeform in a way that I think is much better, much more engaging, much less repetitive.
Mm-hmm.
So
Excellent,
yeah,
good
do
stuff. Yeah,
do with that what you will.
yeah, I have it right here. I've had it next to me since launch, and I just can't find the motivation to play anything like that at the moment. But I look forward to it.
We
I
should
have been
make the time with all the time you have. As
making it
discussed
to
on our
all
bonus
this
round, you
launch
have
time.
all the time in the world.
All the time in
So
the world. The only game that I'm into at the moment, maybe this is very telling, is where you drive Soviet era trucks through very deep mud, and you basically have to drive a logging truck from one part of a logging town to another and get stuck in mud. That's great.
yeah,
Slow,
there's a whole like
racing.
subgenre of Twitch streamers who do that kind of game. You should just do
Mm.
that.
Just watch them instead.
No, I'm saying like buy all the
Oh, Twitch
stuff
stream.
and like Twitch stream yourself driving a truck from camp
Maybe.
A to camp B.
I'm not the most elegant of trucker, but I'm getting it. I would like to learn the difference between four-wheel drive and differential lock. Well, I'm going to Google that one day. I'm sure you can tell me off air. But
Uh, so 4-wheel drive means that all your wheels are driving, and a differential means that your wheels can spin independently of one another.
cool.
Yeah, it's two different
Yeah,
things.
yes. Yes. Oh, I absolutely. They are two different buttons, and I'm still wrapping my head about when to use them. But it's good. It's very fun.
Yeah.
So, what should we start with this week? What are we talking about?
Um, well, we should start by saying that like you can hear a lot more about this by listening to our bonus round. Um, so anyone who's a Patreon patron can pay as little as $2 a month and hear us ramble on about all kinds of things. And this week we talked about gaps in our film canon, and also films that haven't stood up to the test of time. And I thought that was a really interesting conversation. So if you
Mhm.
are a patron, go listen to that. And if you are not, consider going to listen to that for as little as $2 Canadian a month. And if you do, we'll love you forever. But yeah, here on the main show, we're going to talk about two movies. And we're going to start with one of the first 2024 releases that I have seen. And I think you've probably seen too.
Mhm.
And why don't you this is so tough because I know I liked both of these movies we're going to talk about more than you. Um, but I want to talk about the other one. So
Okay,
why
talk
don't
about the
you
other
take
one.
why don't you take us through the basics of I.s.s?
ISS, the International Space Station, is a spacebound thriller starring the luminescent Ariana DeBose. I think that's how you say her name. And
Mm-hmm.
she's a scientist, a military scientist who goes into space to research organ transplants. And as they are in real life, at any given time, there's a number of American and Russian um, scientists uh, working together on the ISS, sharing the space, sharing their lives up there. And we see this when she first arrives there, that they sort of welcome her in, and they're all buddies, and they share jokes and share food and share cultures, and it's all very lovely. And interestingly, if you have claustrophobia, you're going to have at this point of the movie a rather interesting time. It's just the idea of being stuck in a can above the earth is kind of terrifying. Um, and it's in the trailers, so this isn't a spoiler. But at one point, they're looking out the window and they see that there's a devastating nuclear attack on the Earth, like entire continents in flames through multiple nuclear explosions. And the thrust of the movie is that both the Americans and the Soviets receive coded secret messages from their respective governments on their emergency backup communicators, and then that leads to the sowing of distrust, of ulterior motives, of basically one side trying to secure it over the other. And that's what turns it into a stuck location thriller. And then that's the rest of the movie. I don't really know. There's not much more I can say without spoiling anything. Everything I've just described the trailer to you, so there's no spoilers there whatsoever. And if I love bottle movies, I absolutely love them. It's one of my favorite genres. It's like put someone in a situation that they can't escape from and watch the heat slowly get turned up, the frog in a pot. And unfortunately, this one left me a bit cold because they got the bottle, they didn't get the dialing up of the pressure right for me. And I think the script could have gone through a couple of passes to try and set the temperature gauge slightly lower earlier and then dial it up to make it far more interesting relationship between these people who were very clearly shown to be friends. And I would have enjoyed a souring of that relationship a bit longer than what they actually gave us. It was a bit heavy-handed in the end. I didn't really enjoy it.
Hmm. You're making something on your desk rattle. Um, there's
Probably
a
is coming from next door.
no, it's definitely your microphone stand. It just stopped. Um, I don't disagree with anything you have said, but I thought it was fine. I thought that it was totally cromulent. We had the gamble. I've talked about this before, but we could rent it for 15 or buy it for 20, and we bought it for 20 on iTunes. And I'm 100% sure this is the kind of thing that will get rewatched like over and over and over again, just because it's easy. Like it doesn't require any thought. It's a perfect like double in baseball terms. You know, it's nowhere near a home run, but it's
I don't know what that is.
it means it got to second base. It's fine. It's
Oh,
totally
okay.
fine. You know, like it's you're not wrong. Like the characterization is a little thin, and the character arc of any particular character is roughly a straight line. Um, but I like everyone who's in it, and they got the temperature. Like you're right, it's lukewarm. It's not boiling, but that's fine. It's fine. It's totally fine. It's hard for me to talk about because I don't actually have strong feelings about it, other than to say that like it's fine. And it's the kind of BS that I'll totally put on like while I'm working all the time. You know, it doesn't. It's not. I'm not asking it to be anything more than it is in this particular case because it's a perfect example of. I'm sure someone's going to love this film. It's not me. I think it's fine, but I bet someone will. Like, definitely watch it for yourself. Someone's going to love this film,
Yeah.
and someone's going to love it, and then be like, "I wonder what else is like this," and discover a whole world of this kind of movie that are better.
I like,
Um,
right, bigger picture stuff. I like that. I think
Yeah.
you should watch this movie and then watch 2010, the year we make contact, because that's the sequel to 2001. And in 2010, there's a sequence where Roy Schneider's American team and Helen Mirren, who is the Russian leader of her team, very similar things happen and very similar orders come through, and a much more interesting interpretation of that story happens in a way that makes sense to their relationship up to that point. Because in I.s.s, there is an absolute instant change from "hey, we're buddies" to "now we're actively trying to kill each other." And there's a number of things they could have done during this movie to allow the suspicion and allow the tension to build in far more interesting ways than go straight from "well, now we're enemies," and the rest of the movie is going to be us exploring how we can kill or not be killed. I have to say that I didn't mind anyone in it. I think everyone did pretty well in it in terms of what they were given. I especially liked an actress I've not seen before called Masha Mashkova, who you tell me is in For All Mankind as well. She's fine when she's speaking English, but there's one scene where she's confronting her two Russian crewmates where she learns something where she's speaking Russian, and I just I couldn't take my eyes off her. And there's something about, especially I want to seek out other movies where she's speaking Russian, because I feel like um,
Well, that'll be easy
she's the
because
kind of actress that I would like to check out.
she's in a she's Russian American, but almost her entire career is in Russia, so
Yeah,
that shouldn't be too hard.
I thought she was great.
Um,
I thought she was great.
except for All Mankind, where she plays a Russian cosmonaut on Mars, and she's also quite good.
Yeah, Ariana DeBose is fine. I don't think she was given the best material to kind of react to, but she's fine
I
in
mean,
this.
I don't think anyone was given the best material. It's interesting because the film that sprung to mind, and I'm just going to preface what I'm about to say by saying I think the film I'm about to say is better by a fairly wide margin. But you went straight to 2010, and my mind went to Underwater
Yeah, I was
in
going to say
terms of
that. Yeah,
like, and the reason for that is that it's very similar because first off, John Gallagher Jr. is in both of those movies, and I think he's maybe the best part of this one. I think he's the only one with like a reasonable arc, and unlike everyone else in the movie, he seems to have a much deeper understanding of the level of film he's in. If that makes sense, like
mm-hmm.
he very much knows the part he's playing in the film he's playing it in.
Mm-hmm.
But Underwater is also a very similar film because that's a film about several people trapped underwater with T.J. Miller, which is very much like being trapped in a space station with Russians. Yeah, I just let that hang in the air for a
So
moment.
just oh my god, there'll be extra reasons to hide away in parts of the space station.
Yeah, I mean, obviously,
Um,
that I think that's a better movie, and it's a lot more science fictiony in that there's a giant, there's monsters everywhere.
yeah, it's a good call, definitely.
But yeah, I mean,
That
it's
kind,
it's just
that
it's got people I like. This movie has people I like in it, and it's in a situation that I like, and I don't need it to be. In this particular case, it'd be nice if it was more than it is, but it doesn't need to be, so it's fine.
I was actually thinking a little bit about Life, not in general. The movie with Ryan Reynolds and Rebecca Ferguson and Jakey
Yeah,
Jakey
Jakey
G,
G.
and which I really like that movie. And it in my head canon, it's a prequel to Venom because it would work totally as a Venom setup. But
Hmm.
the way they used, because they're in are they actually in the I.s.s. or is it's a similar station?
No,
It
I think
might
it's
as well
just like an updated version of the eye. Like it might as
right.
well be. It doesn't
The way
matter. It's a space station.
they use the modules of that as part of their storytelling, and I was expecting this film to do that as well, and it didn't really, not meaningfully. So I think that's just a long list of missed opportunities in this film to do something interesting with the
It's an
premise.
interesting comparison too because I feel like we have the opposite reactions to those two movies, and that I think this one's fine, and I found Life to be very disappointing. There's things in life. I mean, and the film too.
It just
Um,
writes itself, doesn't it?
it does, yeah. Um, there's things in that movie I like Gyllenhaal's always good, Ferguson's always good. Uh, I really enjoy movies where Ryan Reynolds isn't just doing his shtick, and that is a good
Yeah,
example
yeah,
of that.
yeah.
Um, but I found that one has a monster in it, and I found that one really really compelling right up to a certain point where the monster basically like grows a face, and then it just goes out the window for me.
Yeah.
And then there's a really terrible like obvious bait and switch at the end that I hated.
Oh, I like that. I like
I
that.
just thought it was so ham-handed. I thought it was so like it. There was at no point did I ever think maybe it was going to go one way and then it went the other. I just knew from the start which way it was going to go, and I think that
Yeah.
that is a thing that can be managed better. But yeah, I
It
mean,
does.
yeah, this movie's totally. This all comes back to the fact that I think that I.s.s. is fine. I think that it is exactly what I was sold, as opposed to something like Life, which I was sold something better and didn't get it. If that,
But Life has Jakey G doing a dramatic reading of Goodnight Moon. I mean, that has that going for it. No other film can boast that.
uh, I mean, I could. There's much better Jakey G films I could watch where he's doing much more interesting things, though. You've never seen Okja, so you should watch Okja, and then we'll talk about favorite Jakey G performances.
He's not. Is he in? He's in that, is he?
Yeah, he
Oh,
plays like the
oh,
MC of this show. He's brilliantly deranged in it.
isn't that a sad movie?
Um, I mean, sort of. It's a Bong Joon Ho movie, so it's not totally happy.
Excellent.
But
How
it's
many?
just like a boy. It's a boy and his dog type movie, except that it's a girl and it's a giant pig, giant hippo pig. So yeah.
Um,
Anyway, it
yeah,
sounds like you're heading towards 2 stars with I.s.s. Is that an accurate assessment?
sorry, what was your assessment?
I said it sounds like you are headed towards 2 stars with I.s.s.
Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
two-star movie. It's fine. I wish it had done all the things that I wanted it to do. It was so close to being better in so many different ways.
yeah.
What about you?
It's 3. I think it's fine. It's totally fine. It's to be fair, it's barely a 3, but it's 3.
Mm-hmm.
I'll watch it again,
Mm-hmm.
and that's not even just like Stockholm syndrome from having purchased it on iTunes. It's just that like I will legitimately watch it again. It'll be interesting to see how frequently that turns out to happen, and how my reaction to it will change over time. Because I might grow to love it more. I might grow to hate it more. Both of those things have
Mm-hmm.
happened for sure.
Mm-hmm.
Um, But for now, it's fine. I think it's totally fine. I think you could do a lot worse on like a Wednesday night while you're eating dinner, And I think there's definitely a place in the world for that level of movie, and this is in that
Mm-hmm.
level.
Fair enough.
You know, and to extend the metaphor, like if this is a perfect Wednesday night, then for me, Life was a movie that I was sold as a great Friday night, but turned out to be a Tuesday. Yeah,
uh, sure.
whatever that means, whatever you take from that, just let me know because I'm not sure what that even means.
Yeah. Uh,
All right.
it's interesting. I would the way you're describing how you would watch I.s.s. is how I'd watch Life. So I think that we're with the mirror image opinions on those two movies.
Hmm. Wait, does one of us have a goatee? Oh no, we both have beards. That analogy doesn't work. Um,
So you're definitely the evil one.
I was speaking with friends the other day in our critics circle that I helped co-found. I was speaking with my co-founders, Dakota and Thomas, and it came out that Thomas and I look very much alike, which is hilarious if you know what Thomas looks like, what I look like. Um, and Dakota pointed out that we're like, DeVito and Schwarzenegger from Twins, and I was like, you know what? I'm the DeVito in that situation, and I'm totally fine with it.
I mean, you're two very handsome men. There's no denying that.
I mean, no, no. One of us is very handsome. The other one is okay. And
Hey, Thomas is better than okay. Come on.
yeah, he is because he's the handsome one. But this podcast is going to get out of hand if we keep going down this road. So
You
let's
should
not do
go
that.
check out Thomas. It's ridiculous. I don't use social media anymore. I'm not saying I stopped because of Thomas, but it's one of the things on the list because I want to feel good about myself. And literally, I don't think he takes a bad photo. So
I know.
God bless him. Born with
Yep.
gifts.
Yeah. He also, you should check out his YouTube show. He has a YouTube
Mm.
movie review show called Real Buzzed, where he
Yeah, it's good. It's
where
good.
he reviews films and pairs them with good whiskey. And if you're into those kind of things, you should watch his show. And even if you're not, you should watch his show. I'll link those things in the show notes.
Yes, definitely do.
Anyway, let's
Okay,
move
let's
on.
talk about the second movie. Tell us about the taste of things, because I know you
Okay.
liked it.
So the taste of things. Where to start? So the taste of things is France's official entry for the Oscar for Best International Feature this year. Um, they chose it over Anatomy of a Fall, and I can see why they did that, but I still think it's crazy. And the basic setup of this movie, though, is maybe the most French movie you've ever seen.
Mm-hmm.
It's
Oh,
set
totally.
in the
Yeah.
1880s. It concerns a chef, a cook, played by Juliette Binoche, and she works on a manor for a gourmand uh, whose name is Dodin, and he's played by Benoit Megamel. Anyway, who is her real life ex partner. They have a child together. Um, and she's an amazing cook, and he's a guy who eats. Like, people invite him to like eat their food, because
By
that's a
rich
thing you can
people.
do when you're wealthy in France in 1885. You can just be a guy that eats
Yeah.
food. um, Without spoiling it too much, basically, so Juliette Binoche's Eugenie is a chef, and through the course of the movie it turns out that she's sick, and then there's always been feelings between her and Dodin, and eventually they decide to marry after he makes her this meal, and then the rest of the movie happens. And it is very, very slow and very, very sumptuous, and really, really tries to dig into this feeling. It's very romantic, the way that each of them create food as a way to connect with the other. And all of the scenes of people cooking are exquisite. Apparently, all of the cooking happened for real, and you can 100% tell that. Like, none of it looks fake. All of it looks delicious. No matter how you come away from this film, you're going to be hungry at the end. Um, where to go next? So, I think that Juliette Binoche is one of the great actors of our time. I think that she is wonderful in this movie. I think she connects with something at a real deep level in terms of the way her character and she delivers lines about food and about cooking. Um, I think that Benoit, how do you pronounce his name? Is it? I think the guy playing Dodon. I think it's,
Benoit Magimel.
yeah,
That's how you
Megamel. Um, I think he connects with some interesting things as well. I think that the sort of soft flame between them is really interesting. Like, it's really interesting to me that they are playing these people who have been in love for so long but never acted on it, or not never acted on it, but never like
Mm.
solidified it in a way where in real life they were partners. They did live together. They do have a child. It's a real authenticity to their connection. And the film is gorgeously shot. All the photography is amazing, and there's a couple of really great performances and a lot of really great scenes. One of my favorite scenes is really early in the movie, where a young girl who's like apprenticing in the kitchen is given a taste of baked Alaska for the first time, and the way her face just lights up, and the way that people react to that happening to her is just wonderful. Um, and again, just to reiterate, all of the scenes of food being cooked are incredible. Like, it is food porn to the highest degree. I can never watch this movie again, though, and I'm going to tell you why. It's very specifically a me problem, and that is because I have a thing, which some of you are probably aware of, called misophonia, which is a condition where certain sounds cause you agitation, would be the polite way to put it. Um, I prefer to describe it the way it makes me feel when I hear some of these sounds is I feel like actual legitimate physical discomfort when I hear them. And the trigger sounds for me are almost entirely eating sounds, but in particular, they are open mouth chewing, and they are the sound a fork makes when it's dragged between teeth as somebody pulls food off of it. And in this film, anytime people are eating, which is a lot, it happens a lot, those two things are happening. And there's no backing music. There's nothing to obscure them. And people are constantly doing those two things and scraping their utensils around plates, which is another one. Like every single like trigger sound for me is in this movie, and it took me a lot of willpower to get through it, and I can never watch it again. So I don't know that I can accurately or unbiasedly. I mean, no opinion about art is unbiased, but I don't know that I could like legitimately evaluate this film because I, for every scene where I was like, that is beautiful, that is lovely, that is wonderful and romantic, there was another scene where I was like, I want to punch my television into space.
I can't
And
imagine how you got through this movie, like because it's all that.
it's all that. Oh yeah, I was watching it alone at night, and my wife came out, and she's like, "How's the movie?" Because she didn't get a chance to watch it with me, and I'm like, "People keep fork dragging," which is what I call it, because she does that sometimes, and I like call her out on it, and she's like, "Oh no, really?" And I'm like, "All the time, all they're doing is fork dragging." like, and
Jesus.
like, I had to watch this film in 3 goes, and it took a lot for me to get through it because it just set me off in a way that I cannot. In a way that like, if I had seen this in a cinema, I might have had to walk out. I might have had to walk out if I'd seen it in a situation where I couldn't stop. I don't think I would have
Well,
gotten through it.
some kind of exposure therapy. Maybe you were cured.
No,
Maybe that one scene where they eat the little baby bird under napkins cured you or killed you instantly.
no, no. This is not a thing that goes away. Believe me, I have tried. I don't like it. Lots of people chew with their mouth open. I can't stand it. And I've existed in public spaces, as you have, most of my life. And like, I can't. Ooh, it's a whole thing. It's a whole thing. Um,
I do
and
love the
and
idea that
and a lot of the time, like I'm able to manage this. Like if I'm out at dinner with like a group of friends, I can sort of grin and bear it. But there's often, here's the thing, in that situation or someone else, when I mentioned this to a friend of ours today about how much trouble I was having with the film, and they said like, well, how did you get through the menu? And the answer is that like there was other stuff going on. There's music, there's background noise, there's people talking. And this film is just like close ups on people's faces as they drag forks between their teeth and chew with their mouth open. And I can't deal with it.
have you seen
So,
Delicatessen? Genet's Delicatessen?
yes, I have.
Did you manage to get through that? Because that's
Yeah.
a lot of open mouth, like
It's a
cannibalistic
lot
eating,
of,
isn't it?
yeah, I don't know. Like that movie does set me off a little bit as well, but that one also has a lot of like other stuff happening in it that makes it sort of worth sticking through. This movie is slow and deliberate and mostly that. So it like I am sure like this film is currently sitting with some ridiculous percentage on like some very high percentage on Rotten Tomatoes. It's something like 4.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. Like it is very, very, very well regarded, and I'm sure it's great, but I wouldn't know. So
Did you finish it in the end or not? Did you
no,
make it to the end?
I got most of the way through. And then I looked up a synopsis of the last few minutes, and
Uh-huh.
I don't. It's such a weirdly specific situation that I've never quite been in before. I love watching food movies. I think Big Night might be like certainly a top 20 film for me. For example, um, I cannot take the amount of. It's just this movie just is like 100% my triggers in particular. So
Mhm,
to the point where I was considering just recusing myself from giving it a rating at all. Like
mhm.
it's difficult. Um, but I've been rambling for a while now, so why don't you tell me how you reacted to the slow moving French drama?
Well, I didn't like it, and I think I'm. It's weird because all the elements are there for me. I Some of my first films that I studied in depth were slow moving, vibey French dramas like Bout de Souffle, and I love that kind of film. I love like meaningful, rich, deep movies that focus on one thing. I love French movies in general. Juliette Binoche is amazing as an actor. Um, I watch a lot of food related programs, fiction, non-fiction, a lot of food, and I love food in general. I love well shot things, and this I came out of this as feeling completely cold. And I think because the main character is so distant, and I think that there's a certain pretentiousness to how this is shot that keeps me completely distanced from the food. I did not come out of this movie feeling hungry. I did not come out of this movie desiring the food that was in front of me.
I mean,
And
this. If you're going to make an analogy, this movie is like it's not Chopped; it's Chef's Table. Like it's definitely like the hoity-toity version of food, for
yeah,
sure.
I like food is there's a passion to food. I think they're connected, and there is like the analogy here is food is love language, and um, on the flip side, when they actually get down to the character work, to this idea of this man realizing he's waited too long to do what he should have done, to explore the love that's always been there, um, to when they're together, I kind of wish I didn't know that they were together, because you can see it in every single gaze between them. There is so much more happening than this movie every time they look at each other. It's quite incredible, actually. And the latter quarter of this movie is more character work, and I enjoyed it a bit more. But I actually think I think there was a pretentiousness to this movie that just removed me completely, and it didn't it didn't make me feel hungry. It didn't inspire passion in food for me. It didn't inspire the things. I know it's a very, very different movie. You mentioned the menu. The food in the menu made me want to claw my way through the screen and eat whatever I could get my hands on. And uh, the the menu is meant to have some pretentiousness there, but the way it shoots its movie is just so incredibly evocative, and I just felt utterly distanced by everything that was presented in front of me. I didn't feel I didn't feel passion for any of it, and so it didn't work for me. But based on lots of people's opinions on Letterboxd, I think I'm in the minority. But I just can't. I didn't think it was particularly well shot. Sorry.
Oh,
Um,
I thought a lot of the food photography in particular was gorgeous.
there's a couple of
Um,
shots where there's sunlight behind, like the steam coming off the consomme, with the sun coming through, giving the god rays. That's beautiful. I really liked actually the girl who played Violette. I thought she was a really interesting character
mhm.
and portrayed very, very well. And so that's the stupid thing. I think the character element was good, but really, if you pardon, a little underbaked. I think
Mm.
the filmmaker was so. I think the focus on taking so much time to show every stage of preparation for the food instead of getting to the root of what the food is in the movie and getting us to the characters a bit more, I think would have worked a bit better for me. But it just left me cold, unfortunately.
Yeah, I would say that the opening like 15 minutes, which is just almost entirely Juliette Binoche cooking, I think accomplishes what you're talking about. And there is a scene in the middle where Dodin makes a meal for her that I think sort of goes the other way. Like it shows a lot of him making food, but not a lot of him of the like why he's doing it exactly. Like if the emotion doesn't come through as well from him as it does from her. Like the food seems to flow from her when she's in the scenes in the kitchen. And maybe it's just that she's a chef and he's not. But in the scenes where he's cooking, it feels a bit mechanical and it doesn't work quite as well. Um, but I don't know. Like it's also quite romantic. That's it's just I I'm not the right person to be talking about this movie. Is what it boils down to. I'm sorry. There's no way I can get I just can't get past it. I can't get past it, especially because I was watching it at night with headphones by myself. There was just
Oh man.
nothing to take away from it, and everything was amplified. And I couldn't deal with it. So I but I do think I liked it overall. I think I at least liked the intent of it more than you seem to have liked the reception thereof. So I don't know. It sounds like to me like you're also landing on 2 stars for this one.
Yeah, I was slating between 2 and 3, but the more I talk about it and think about it, it's a 2 from me. Didn't didn't inspire passion in me, and like so many other French movies have, and French movies about food have. I think it missed for me. It missed its target.
Yeah,
Where are
it's
you landing on
interesting. It's interesting to me because we do seem to be so much in the minority about it. Like,
it?
and you mentioning that, like, I think it was beautifully shot. If not, I think the direction was fine, and I think that, like, a film is an expression of a director's intent, and I do feel like this one maybe needed to be tightened up a little bit. Um, but he won Best Director at Cannes last year, and the movie was up for the Palme d'Or. Um,
I
and like
it's
I sort of look
it's a
at it
very
and
Can movie, isn't it?
yeah, and I sort of look at it and I think, I sort of get why the people in charge of choosing a movie for the Oscars would choose this over Anatomy of a Fall. I still think that's fucking crazy though.
Yeah,
Like,
it's
because Anatomy
nuts.
of a Fall is like one of the best movies of the year, and I know there's lots of people who would like. We have at least one mutual friend who, like, I was out with a bunch of people during the film festival here in Vancouver, and I mentioned that, like, I couldn't believe that they had chosen any film other than Anatomy of a Fall, and two of them were like, "No, no, we've seen A Taste of Things. Like, we get it." And so, like, people love this film. I'm not one of them. So I'm gonna give it 3 based on its, like, technical, like, on paper merits, and also because, like, I just can't. I can't give it only 2 based on my personal quirks, but I can't give it more than 3 because of my personal quirks. So it's gonna get a 3.
Fair
So
enough.
there it is.
Yeah.
Maybe a 3 with, like, an asterisk. Maybe I'll, like, do a special one with an asterisk, being like, this movie was made to torture Matthew.
It's a very small genre.
I mean, it might be a single film genre, because
Mm,
the way that it did that. So
mm,
I don't know, man. Like, everyone has their things. I can get through a movie that triggers my fear of heights. Like, I think Fall is a great movie, and that movie makes my stomach jump into my throat
mm,
every time.
mm.
But, like, those, like,
It's different though. Fear
there's
and repulsion are different things, aren't they?
yeah, 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 yeah.
Mm,
And it is like a repulsion. It is a,
mm,
like, people don't really get when I. The only way I can explain it is that, like, there's certain sounds that when I hear them, and especially when I hear them repeatedly, cause me discomfort, like physical, like felt
mm.
discomfort. Uh, and this movie did that a lot. So yeah,
Fair
super
enough.
duper.
Yeah. I want to go. It does make me want to go and watch something like Amelie, which has another beautiful French ponderous movie, which has a big food element that it just makes me feel warm and fuzzy. I think that's the antidote I need for watching this film.
It makes me want to go watch Big Night, which I think, again,
No,
I'm just going
I
to
don't
reiterate.
know. I
I'm
don't
going to
know what that
reiterate. Big
is.
Night is a masterpiece, and I want to rewatch it.
Why have I never heard of that?
Big Night is an indie film that was made in the '90s. It stars Tony Shalhoub and Stanley
Oh,
Tucci as immigrant Italian brothers who own a small restaurant, and they are going under.
awesome.
And they host one big dinner party to try and attract, like, an investor. And they
Oh,
make
that
all
sounds
of the
great.
best food they know how to make, and it is wonderful from start to finish.
Do you know
It
what
has
makes me
it
fucking
has my vote
starve?
for maybe the best food movie ever made, and also, I
Mm.
think, legitimately, I think the best final scene in certainly in the conversation for, like, the best final scene in a movie that I've seen.
Oh shit. Okay. I was going to say the thing that's made me starving recently is the first episode of The Bear. I can't wait to watch more of that.
Yeah, The Bear season 3 comes out in June. I think we're very much looking forward to
Excellent.
that, because you just wait, man. Like, you just wait until you get to season 2. There's
Yeah.
my 2 favorites episodes of season 2. To have
Mm.
some excellent food stuff in them, in a show full of excellent food stuff.
Yes. See, that's what I want. Good. Have you got anything that you can talk about that you're watching next week? Anything that's not super secret? I know I'm working through Mr. and Mrs. Smith, which is excellent. So please go
No,
watch that if you have Prime. Anything you're watching?
no. We've seen all of Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and it is great. You can check out. I just had a review published on Exclaim of the upcoming miniseries Shogun, which I unfortunately, as a big fan, lifelong fan of the book, I liked but didn't love. And I go into pretty detail why that is. And I think that's it. Everything else that I have on the go, I think, is embargoed right now. So I'm going to err on the side of safety and not talk about the things.
Absolutely.
Yeah, so that's all I got going on. But you can let's just wrap it up there, I guess, because what else are we going to say about these two movies? Nothing.
No.
So if you like this show, if you agree with us, if you disagree with us, feel free to get in touch. The best way to do that is on the socials, or just check out our website. We're on all the socials, or at least I am, it's Matthew AF on most of them, and we are Awesome Friday CA on most of them, and Simon's not on them, so you can get in touch with them through me. Or you can go to our websites. The show is awesomefriday.ca. Simon is temporarypen.com, and my site is stretched.ca, and you can find all of our most recent work at all of those places. Once again, we do have both Patreon and a Ko-fi, so if you want to support us on an ongoing basis, join the Patreon. It is as little as $2 a month Canadian, and for that amount, you get a bonus episode every week. Again, this week we talked about holes in our cinematic headcanon. What did we talk about last time? I don't remember off the top of my head, but it's an interesting conversation every week. I think much more free form, much more flowing, and I think you'll find it interesting. So go do that. Plus, then we get to keep making the show. The more of you subscribe, the more we get to do this, and that's great.
Yes, please. Yes, is it?
Where
do we record?
Last but not least, we are here in Vancouver in the unceded and ancestral territory of the Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh and Squamish nations. We will be back next week talking about the forthcoming release of Avatar: The Last Airbender in its live-action form on Netflix. And one other thing, which we'll reveal is on the day. But if you're looking forward to Avatar, come find us next week, because that's what we're talking about. And last but not least, thank you for joining us on this awesome Friday.
Bye.